Hey folks, ever since I tested out the original Ophion case from Raijintek, I've always kept an eye on what they get up to when they release a new case. Now towards the end of 2020 and into 2021, they started shipping out a new version of the Ophion, a case for those that look at the already compact 19 litre Ophion Evo or the even smaller 16 litre Ophion and think, I need something that's less than half that size. So let me introduce you to the Ophion 7 litre, which as the name suggests has less than half the volume of even the smallest original Ophion, with minuscule dimensions of 101mm wide, 312mm deep and a height of 225mm. Now let's get some of the basic specs of the Ophion 7 litre out of the way. Like the rest of the cases in Raijintek's lineup, it's of all aluminium construction, it's sturdy and well built, and the painting on this white version is evenly applied, and it looks really nice overall I'd say. The case itself supports a maximum of 3 92mm fans, 2 up top and a single 92mm fan at the base. The Ophion 7 litre supports a low profile single slot graphics card and features dual 2.5-inch drive bays on the rear, and its front I/O consists of a single USB Type-C port and a USB 3.0 Type-A port. The case is tool free and it's only compatible with SFX power supplies, and it supports a maximum cooler height of 70mm, which is a good bit larger than many chambered ITX cases of this size, which generally support cooler heights around the 50mm mark. Now, if you're like me, you look at those specs and it's pretty clear what this case was designed for. You're looking at a case which is designed around using a CPU with integrated graphics, or a lower end card like the newly released RX 6400 or Nvidia's last gen 1650 or a 1050 Ti low profile card. Now Raijintek's made a simple decision here not to go for the stumpy and dumpy chamber design with the GPU around the back via a riser cable, to consciously differentiate the 7 litre from the bigger Ophion or the Ophion Evo, which can handle pretty much any graphics card you want to throw at it. With that said, of course I'm going to try and squeeze something in there, as there's actually a decent amount of room. But first, let's build it out as intended, an APU gaming build or a small desktop. So today we're pairing the Ophion 7 litre up with a MSI B550i Gaming Edge Wi-Fi motherboard from MSI, the Ryzen 7 5700G, and 16 gigs of Corsair DDR4 3600 memory. Storage is going to be handled by one 1TB Samsung 980 M.2 NVMe SSD, and the whole system will be fed by the pretty awesome Corsair SF750. Yes, that's a 750W platinum rated SFX power supply, and to cool the APU I've decided to dust off one of the old Juno RBW coolers that I took a look at a few years back, as it's more than good enough to cool off 8 Zen 3 cores and the 8 Vega CUs within the 5700G. So with the build done in this basic use case form, I will say that it's probably one of the more straightforward ITX cases that I've built in. The fact that you have to use an SFX power supply means that you're naturally going to end up with a lot less cable clutter. The fact that you're not tempted to squeeze in an AIO again means less clutter inside. And the fact that I took the decision to only use an NVMe drive rather than populate the SATA SSD slots, again just simplified things no end. In fact, before I could even finish my cup of coffee, I was installing Windows on the system, and the build was done. And that is always refreshing, as I generally tend to build setups with as much flair and fans galore, RGB, custom cables etc, but something was just really satisfying this time around with how simple the Ophion 7 litre was to build in and get set up. And in this form, it's a fantastic APU system. The case is well ventilated so that there's no cooling issues with the 5700G, and the SF750 PSU stays so unstressed that the fan barely kicks in at all. And all in all, that makes it a really nice living room streaming setup or home theatre PC, which can handle newer titles at 720p and even esports titles comfortably at higher settings. With that said though, I've already said that I wanted a bit more for this system, and thankfully there are options for the Ophion 7 litre if you're willing to tweak a few areas. Now, officially, the spec clearly states that only single slot low profile GPUs should be used in the system, and indeed there's only a single slot at the back. but technically there is room in the Ophion 7 litre for a 2-slot low profile card. And here I've got the fastest low profile 2-slot card currently available to purchase, the RTX A2000, a GA106 base card, the same as the RTX 3060 but with a 75 watt power limit which reduces the maximum boost clocks, and only 26 SMs compared to the 3060's 28. Now in a previous video I took that card apart, replaced the pads in thermal paste as despite being new, we all know that Nvidia cuts corners on the OEM thermal solutions if it saves them $1 or $2, and now it's running really cool and quiet, perfect for such a small system. And this is where the tweaking of the Ophion 7 litre comes in. I first removed everything from the case and got to work with a small cutting tool and made a few nips and tucks here and there at the rear of the case. First up, there was a slight lip here which was removed for no other reason other than to aid access, and then the second modification was actually the most simple but the most crucial. 2 vertical cuts around 15mm allows you to bend the aluminium over neatly and creates a nice little lip for the shroud of the A2000 to sit on. Now I've finished off all the edges that I cut with a deburring tool, and something to note that I can't stress highly enough is that when you're cutting a case, just please be sure to clean it out thoroughly afterwards. I used a data vac to blow any material shavings away, and then detailed the case with a small magnet to pick up any hidden flakes. And then I followed up this by painting the newly cut edges with a bit of white metal paint. It's not perfect, but the areas I cut are not on show anyway. On top of this, I chose to remove the I/O bracket on the A2000. As with the end sitting on this newly formed lip, and the rear secured with the lock on the B550 motherboard, it's not going anywhere. And removing the I/O shield expands the size of the rear exhaust by almost 3 times the area compared with stock. So with the case cut, cleaned, repainted, and the components installed back inside, I decided to add 2 Noctua NF B9 Redux fans up top and the little RTX A2000 slotted in with no hassle, no riser cables and no fuss whatsoever. Being a 75 watt card, I don't even need to worry about additional PCIe power connectors as the GPU is powered entirely from the PCIe slot. And now I've got a really quite awesome looking 7 litre PC with a nice and powerful graphics card that can handle 1440p gaming quite easily and blitzes through anything I throw at it if I'm using it in the living room with a 1080p projector. So let's wrap this video up for the 7 litre then. As an APU based build or as a workstation, with one of those little single slot Nvidia T1000 Quadro cards which are so popular in so many small CAD or business workstations, the Ophion 7 litre makes perfect sense. Being available in both black and white means that you can use this to create a no-nonsense business system that will blend in effortlessly in any workspace, which is great. It looks premium, it's got some nice flair here and there, and it can be as understated as needed. And since it avoids using riser cables for a GPU, it's one less point of failure, something that's critical in a professional environment. Likewise, if you're wanting a powerful system for your home with an LP GPU or an APU, then again it makes sense. It offers a good experience when building, it's got the option for 2 additional 2.5-inch drives on top of any motherboard M.2 slots, and in white with a little bit of RGB going on, it can look pretty neat sitting on your desk because it's got such a small footprint. Where it makes less sense, I would say, is if your main goal is primarily and only gaming. Now, as I've shown, you can fit in some powerful hardware, and I've no doubt that over the next coming years we're going to have new low-profile GPUs and even Zen 4 APUs, which is going to make the RTX A2000 and pretty much anything we've got these days look pretty weak. So it's not like you can't build a gaming system around it, and it's not like you're going to be stuck with the performance that you can get today. It's just that for pure gaming, you would probably be better off stepping up to the original Ophion, say, instead of the 7 litre, for the flexibility that offers. But you know what, I don't particularly care about having the ultimate flexibility for a build of this size. The Ophion 7 litre scratches an itch that I've had for a while, and overall I'm super happy with how this build has turned out. And I think that's pretty much going to be my final thought on the 7 litre. Yes, there are other small ITX cases, some of which might make using other components easier, but with a footprint around 15% smaller than even the Dan Case A4 SFX, while still being able to accommodate a 70mm height cooler, rather than the sub 50mm coolers we so often see in these really compact cases, it will be the perfect case for some. And like I always say, the fact that we've now got so much choice in the ITX space these days is a great thing. And you know what, if there was ever a revision to this case, by my calculations, you would be able to fit a 2-slot low profile card in there with no modifications whatsoever, and keep the overall volume still well under 7.5 litres, so maybe that's something for Raijintek to think about going forward. However, on the whole, I can just sum it up by saying if it fits your use case, it could be the perfect case for you. It's not got to be for everyone, but as an addition to the already impressive Ophion line, it's another string to the bow and a really good addition overall. So hopefully you'll have found this overview useful and the small mods done quite interesting. And if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe buttons and let me know what you think of the Ophion 7L, and if you could be swayed into shrinking down your next build. Anyways folks, I'm going to leave it there for today. Take care, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the comment section down below, and in the next video.